They said the boy screamed without opening his mouth. Not a tantrum, not even a cry, just a thin, violin string sound that slipped down the stairwell every time. A new housekeeper carried her suitcase in. By the third night, the mugs would shatter on their own. The hall lights would flicker in a rhythm like breathing, and the intercom would whisper one word: run. Every housekeeper did. Before we dig deep into this shocking story, kindly hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss real stories that reveal the darkest truths and biggest betrayals. The mansion on Raven Hill was all glass and hush. Windows are taller than secrets. A chandelier like a frozen storm above the foyer. House managers came and went, some too proud to be afraid, others too timid to admit it. None lasted. Grace Eckenham arrived with 2 suitcases and a soft scarf, the color of ripe palm fruit, 45 steady hands, the posture of a woman who had backed storms into corners and made them sit. She paused at the threshold, closed her eyes, and listened. In the clean quiet, a child's fear trembled like a mosquito in a jar. "The agency sent you?" asked Ms. Corbett, the house manager, sharp bun, sharper smile. "They did," Grace answered, eyes lifting to the chandelier. "You've had trouble keeping staff." "We've had trouble keeping staff who follow instructions." Ms. Corbett's smile didn't move her eyes. "Mr. Vale travels. His son has difficulties with boundaries. Don't indulge him. Don't enter the pool house. Don't answer the intercom after midnight. Simple rules keep chaos small." Grace nodded. She had learned long ago that men in white shirts loved rules that avoided truth. She met the boy at the top of the stairs. 8 years old, pale and serious, fists tight around a dented toy soldier. Theo Vale. He watched like a small captain standing on the deck of a ship he didn't dare abandon, his eyes stormlight trapped. "Good morning, Master Theo," Grace said softly. "I am Grace. I make things clean and teach ghost manners." A flicker interest? He didn't smile. He lifted the toy soldier and clicked its leg twice. Somewhere down the hall, a light blinked in the same rhythm. "That's a good soldier," she said. "Does he have a name?" He didn't answer. But as she moved past, she felt his gaze settle into the folds of her scarf and stay there, like a sparrow resting where it feels safe. The first night, the house behaved. Grace ironed, folded, learned the pantry by scent. Theo hovered without hovering, appearing in doorways, studying her hands, then dissolving into the quiet like breath on glass. He ate little. He slept with a lamp on and the curtains open, as if afraid of what the dark hid or the glass revealed. The second night, the intercom crackled awake at 12:01 a.m. A child's whisper, robotic and thin, "Run." Grace placed the iron down, unplugged it, and walked to the nearest speaker. She rested her palm flat on the wall. "Good evening," she said, voice warm as tea. "In this house, we do not run from children. We run toward them." The intercom went dead, but in the hall, a single bulb blinked 3 times, click, click, click. The soldier's leg. Grace slept lightly and woke before dawn. She found a mug in the sink, hairline cracks webbing its surface. Not shattered, not dropped, just fractured. She lifted it. The cracks traced a pattern she recognized as a pressure point, not impact. The kind that appears when ceramic endures long. Soft stress, as if held too tight for too long. She chose a brush and thick. Warm milk with a pinch of salt, something her grandmother taught her for stubborn stains and stubborn silences. She painted the milk along the cracks and whispered, "Hold, just enough." When she set it down, Theo stood in the doorway watching. "I thought I broke it," he said, voice barely there. "You didn't. Someone taught it to be afraid. It learned to break itself first." He flinched, eyes darting to the camera in the corner. Grace followed his gaze. The camera's red light glowed steadily. Watching. Everything here was watched. "Would you like to help me dry it?" she asked. He shook his head. Then, after a moment, he took the towel and held one corner. It was always like that, no sudden trust, just small edges of it offered carefully. Grace didn't pry. She placed bowls, not literal ones, though there were those 2 water bowls under vents to catch the dust that fell when the air conditioning clicked on at midnight. But bowls of time, bowls of quiet, places where a boy could set the heavy things he carried without being asked for the names yet. On the 3rd day, she heard the scream, thin sliding down the staircase, brushing the chandelier crystals until they trembled and sang. Grace didn't run. She looked for Theo and found him in the sunroom, back stiff, eyes locked on the door to the pool house. The intercom jolted alive. "Run, run, run." "Who recorded that?" Grace asked the air. Who told your house to become a coward? The speaker sizzled and died. Theo's knuckles went white around the soldier. Tell me where it hurts, Grace said, kneeling to meet his eyes. He lifted the toy soldier and tapped the leg click. Click, click, then pointed to the pool house door. The forbidden place. Ms. Corbett says no one goes there, he whispered. Grace weighed it. Some rules keep chaos small. Others keep truth in a closet. Do you trust me enough to let me look? She asked. You can stand at the threshold and tell me to stop. Theo bit his lip. He nodded. They walked together. The pool house smelled of water that had forgotten how to be a lake. The air was a degree colder. Speakers tucked into the rafters hummed faintly with silence. On a shelf, a towel embroidered with Ava letters faded but furious. Theo's mother. Died in an accident, the internet had whispered when Grace looked, before taking the job. Slipped, tragic, private. Funeral, Mr. Vale didn't do interviews. Grace moved slowly, eyes drinking details. A wall of glass looked over the pool, bright, cruel blue. On the far end, a door that didn't match. Newer hinges, paint unscuffed. She turned the handle, locked. May I see your soldier? She asked gently. Theo considered, then placed it in her palm. She felt the clicky leg metal warmed by small hands. She unfolded the bent foot and saw, cleverly welded under it, a thin magnet. Not a child's trick. A technician. Who gave you this? Grace asked. He stared at the door, silent. Someone taught this house to be mean. She murmured, half to him, half to the wires in the walls. But we can teach it manners. That night, Grace boiled water and dropped in a handful of salt. She set the steaming bowl in the hall beneath an intercom speaker. Theo stood beside her, wide-eyed in pajamas. The soldier tucked under his arm like a talisman. My grandmother said salt pulls truth out of the air, she told him. Makes the invisible heavy enough to see. The intercom crackled. The word rose run and caught in the steam, curling like ribbon. Theo leaned in, amazed. Grace cupped the air with her hands and guided the word down, down, until the steam collapsed and the whisper vanished into the water. The speaker sputtered and fell quiet. That's magic, Theo breathed. It's just making space for truth to land, Grace said. Real magic is naming what we're afraid of. His mouth trembled. He looked at the fogged window and slowly, as if the letters weighed something written with his fingertip. Abuse. Grace's chest ached. Who hurt you, Theo? He swallowed. His eyes darted to the camera again. Not Anzium, he said. Words, walls. Ms. Corbett says if I talk, the house will make me sorry. It made Mrs. Laura trip. It made Mr. Phelps lock the pantry. It made Mommy, his breath snagged. He shook his head so hard his hair fell into his eyes. Grace didn't touch him. She set the bowl of salt water on the sill and let the words sink. The next morning, Ms. Corbett arrived in the kitchen with a smile like a polished knife. The boy didn't sleep. You're not following the routine. The routine seems unkind, Grace replied, folding a towel. Who maintains the intercom system, Ms. Corbett? She blinked. Security, why? The house speaks at night, Grace said mildly. It says run. Ms. Corbett's smile thinned. Some staff invent superstitions to excuse incompetence. I hope you're not that kind. I hope so too, Grace said, equally mild. Where is Mr. Vale today? Singapore, Ms. Corbett said. You will not disturb him. Of course. Grace looked at the cameras, then back at the woman who kept them fed. I won't disturb him. You already do. She spent the day not disturbing anyone, just polishing the brass so well it reflected patterns. She wiped the frames of 3 cameras and noticed something, a hairline discrepancy, in the screw heads. All turned the exact same degree off level. The signature of a single hand. That evening, she dusted the baseboards beneath 6 vents with blue chalk. At midnight, she found fine chalk footprints leading not to bedrooms, but to the locked pool house and the server closet. By morning, Ms. Corbett's smile had become lean. You're setting traps, she said. I am cleaning, Grace replied. Cleaning reveals. Mr. Phelps will escort you to the bus stop, Ms. Corbett said softly. Today will be your last. Theo stood in the doorway, small and stiff. Grace met his eyes and shook her head once, not yet. May I pack my things? She asked. I don't like to leave crumbs. 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, Grace did what her grandmother would have called the only true sorcery. She told the truth in the right order. She texted Mr. Vale, I am terminating, but for cause. Your cameras are not recording what you think. Your intercom is weaponized. Meet me now. Bring your conscience." She didn't expect an answer. She got one, 15 minutes. Then she carried her suitcases downstairs and let Mr. Phelps, with his hard jaw and soft eyes, herd her toward the door. Theo stood at the top of the stairs, knuckling white around his soldier. At the foyer, Ms. Corbett was waiting with a clipboard. "Sign, you agree to confidentiality. You return the uniform. You leave your phone." Grace smiled. "I return what belongs to the house," she said. "But my voice belongs to me." "Not here," Ms. Corbett murmured. "Here most of all," Grace said. The front door opened. Leonard Vale stepped in, jet-lagged, unshaven, the kind of tired men wear when they've built their empires by setting something down and forgetting what it was. "What is this?" he demanded. "Your son is scared of your house," Grace said. "And the house obeys your house manager." He stiffened. "Theo is sensitive." "He is strategic," Grace corrected. He taught himself to speak with clicks because the house punished his words. "He taps a code with his toy because your intercom. Recording run is triggered by a pattern. Watch." She took the soldier from Theo. He had crept down the stairs and now leaned, trembling, into the banister and tapped the leg twice. Somewhere above, a hallway light blinked twice. The intercom in the study clicked awake and whispered its one word: "Run." How Mr. Vale began. "Because the house isn't haunted," Grace said gently. "It is programmable, and someone taught it to bullies." Mr. Phelps shifted. Ms. Corbett's face went calm, like ice frozen because moving would crack. Grace set her phone on the foyer table. She pressed play. Audio filled the air. Ms. Corbett's voice last night, through the intercom controls, crisp as a prayer. "If you talk, Theo, the house will make you sorry." Then a second clip, a service invoice for speaker installation signed. "C. Corbett, the third." A whispered conversation near the pool house door. "Ms. Corbett, as long as the staff churns, no one audits accounts, Mr. Phelps. Low, my cut stays the same." And then, almost a flinch inside a voice, "He thinks silence is love. Keep it that way." Mr. Vale's eyes flashed as if he'd been slapped awake. He turned to Ms. Corbett. "What did you do?" "What you could not," she said evenly. "I maintained order." "After her death." "Say her name," Grace said, and for the first time her voice carried steel. Ms. Corbett's mouth tightened. "After Ava drowned." Theo flinched so hard the soldier fell from his hand. "The boy became feral," Ms. Corbett continued. "He frightened the staff. He sabotaged devices. He broke dishes, screamed at night. He wrote abuse on a window," Grace said quietly, picking up the soldier, placing it back into Theo's shaking hands. "He was trying to name what you were doing to him." "You told him walls would punish his voice. You built walls that did." Mr. Vale's face collapsed. A man watching the cost of his absence arrive with interest. He looked up the staircase at his son. "Theo," he said, voice broken. "I didn't know." "Because you liked not knowing," Grace said, and there was no gentleness left. "You outsourced your grief and called it efficiency. A stranger raised your silence into a god and taught your boy to worship it with fear." For a long breath, the mansion held its air. Then it exhaled. "Phelps," Mr. Vale said, voice flat. "Take Ms. Corbett's badge. Call the police." Phelps didn't move. Grace turned to him. "When you locked the pantry," she said, "did it make you feel big or small?" He swallowed. Something passed across his face, shame flickering like a match. He held out his badge to Mr. Vale, eyes on the floor. "I'm sorry," he muttered to the space between his shoes. Corbett made it to the doorknob before the siren started to grieve in the distance. She didn't struggle. Some people don't. They just deflate when their power leaves the room. After the police, after statements. After Mr. Vale called someone who was not a PR person but a therapist. The house was different. Quiet, not shushed. The cameras blinked politely, then slept. Technicians arrived the next morning to gut the intercoms and fetch the cruel bones out of the walls. Theo slept for 9 hours. When he woke, he found Grace in the kitchen making a kara, bean cakes hot enough to make relief. "Curl out of them." "Is the magic gone?" he asked, cautious. "Only the bad kind," she said. "We can keep the good." "What's the good kind?" She slid a plate his way. "You tell me." He thought, then tapped the soldier's leg once. A single kitchen light blinked, just a respectful nod. He grinned, shy, startled by the shape of it on his own face. That evening, when the sun made the glass turn to flame, Theo walked to the pool. Grace stayed in the doorway. giving him the kind of space that doesn't feel like a cliff. He crouched, held the toy soldier above the water, and spoke so softly the pool had to lean in to hear. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "I'm not running." He let the soldier go. It sank slow and sure, a small ceremony, a baptism for a boy who had been told his voice could wake cruelty and had used it anyway. Behind him, footsteps, Mr. Vale, no phone, no excuses. He dropped to a knee beside his son and didn't speak at first. They watched the soldier vanish into the blue, and when the silence had been acknowledged, he said the first honest thing he'd said in a long time. "I failed you," he whispered, "but I'm here now." Theo reached without looking and found his father's hand. "Hold it. Not forgiveness, those things have their own clocks, but a beginning." From the doorway, Grace smiled. The kind that starts in the eyes and moves outward, slow as sunrise. She folded the palm-colored scarf around her shoulders and felt the house settle. She had not performed miracles. She had done the closest thing. She had turned on the light and let the truth stand in it without flinching. People later asked neighbors, reporters at a distance, strangers who lived on gossip, what magic she had used to tame the terrifying boy in the glass mansion. Grace shrugged. "I named what hurt him," she said. "And I taught the house to listen, because some magic is salt and steam and a word written on foggy glass. Some magic is a woman who refuses to run. And the best magic of all is this. The moment a child realizes the scream no longer belongs to the house. It belongs to the past, and the present belongs to him. That is how the mansion on Raven Hill changed forever. What once echoed with fear and silence now held warmth, laughter, and the sound of healing. Grace hadn't just cleaned floors or folded linens. She swept away shadows that had held a child hostage for years. It wasn't sorcery. It wasn't trickery. It was something far more powerful. The courage to stand, to see and to speak when others stayed silent. Theo would never forget the woman who taught him that his voice wasn't dangerous. It was powerful. And the millionaire who almost lost his son would forever remember that no empire is worth anything if the ones you love live in fear. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell because more real stories of courage, betrayal, and redemption are coming your way. Until next time, remember, the greatest magic in life is truth spoken with love.